I'm feeling a little Stephen King is in order. What's it gonna be? I think we'll start with these two and take it from there. Let's see how many Stephen King books I can read in a week. Oh my god. Stephen King does this. I don't know how he does this, but it says, like, I didn't know what getting a girl pregnant meant. Sex. Boys lay down on top of girls and wiggled around until they got the feeling. When that happened, a mysterious something called jizz came from the boy's dink. It sank into the girl's belly, and 9 months later, it was time for diapers and a baby carriage. Oh, well, hello there. I am 64 pages into Revival. I am loving it. As usual, King has this knack for these character-driven stories that really just delve deep into the human psyche and dissects what that means, what scares us and what terrifies us and disgusts us. He uses tragedy and all of these human experience things and turns them into this
monstrous
experience in some way, shape, or form. And you really never know how that's going to manifest. You just don't know if it's going to be through monsters or a man or a woman who does monstrous things. From my very brief, minuscule understanding of this story, it is about a boy, Jamie, who meets this reverend when he's young. He's like 6 years old. And the reverend at the time is very pious, of course, and religious, but he develops this unnatural or odd obsession with Jamie, this young child, particularly after a tragedy strikes him. Things take a turn for the worse and for the weird. And I am at the point where you've met the characters, where everything is good and understand how they have this bond or this understanding of each other. And I'm not really sure how it's going to turn, but I have faith that King will do what he does best and will manipulate and turn these characters into something dark. So I am excited to get into this. I am breezing right through it. It is easily digestible. I love that. I think this book is only like 400 pages. I have no doubt that I will fly right through it. Today, in particular, is a very rainy and dreary day, and so I hope to spend a lot of time reading. But I do have a dentist appointment today. That's about it. That's about all I have going on. So Hazel and I are going to enjoy this rainy, dreary day cuddled up on the floor or on the sofa reading some Stephen King. I can't think of a better way or a more appealing way to spend the day. I am going to go make some breakfast. It's like 8 o'clock. Then I will make my way to the dentist and then come back and just dive in and hopefully just really take a big chunk out of this book. So today is Tuesday. I started this last night. I'm hoping to finish it like today or tomorrow. And then I also want to pick up Misery, which is a book of King's that I have not read yet and I've been meaning to read forever. And I have heard just everybody praises Misery as how such a great read it is. And so I hope that is the same experience for me. These were not books on my TBR shelf. I just felt like a change of pace and I have been meaning to get back into King for a while. So let's do it. Let's go. I'm super excited and I hope you are too. Bye. Just a quick update. Today is Wednesday. I have not started to read yet, but last night I left off on page 172. What is that? Almost halfway. So I'm a little behind what I thought I was going to be. I actually didn't have that much time to read yesterday, not as much as I anticipated, and so I'm a little behind. But I'm very much enjoying it. I didn't realize that this was a kind of coming of age story for this boy Jamie and his struggles. In very many ways, it's almost reminding me of Demon Copperhead because there are talks of grief and addiction and death and all these, traumatic life events that lead this poor boy down this path of struggle. And so that's been interesting to see. And I'm at the point now where he has come back into contact with the Reverend from his past. He thinks he's been saved by him. He's no longer a Reverend, by the way. I believe up until or after this point, I will not be giving many details because it will get spoilery. I think up to this point, just been him growing up and finding the wrong path. We'll put it that way. And it kind of sets him up to come across this Reverend who played this integral role in his life, in his childhood, who made a deep impression upon him, who he deeply cared about and who also struggled. And he felt tremendous grief, guilt, horror at the way things panned out for this man. And so I think that running into him when he is at his worst, he's hit rock bottom. So I think that running into the Reverend at this point was a life-altering moment. And I think in the beginning of the book, he even says, yeah, he does, I'll read it. I can't bear to believe his presence in my life had anything to do with fate. It would mean that all these terrible things, these horrors, were meant to happen. If that is so, then there is no such thing as light, and our belief in it is a foolish illusion. If that is so, we live in darkness like animals in a burrow or ants deep in their hill, and not alone. And that's on page 2, so it's not a spoiler. I found that so far in this book, there is no midpoint Stephen King slog. Things are progressing. The stakes are increasing. You find yourself attached to the characters like you do with all Stephen King books. That King has some cards up his sleeve, some tricks, and I've been foolishly led down the path so far to believe this is pretty lighthearted and a human story, but I know that's not what this is because it says clearly a fresh adrenaline rush of terror. This is vintage King, and so I know that at any time now, the shit is going to hit the fan. I will probably finish this before I do any more updates. Hopefully that will be tonight or early tomorrow, and then I can start on Misery, because I definitely want to get through that. How long is Misery? Oh, that's only like 350 pages. Oh, so it's shorter. It looks thicker, but it's not. So that's the plan. Catch up with you in the next clip. I just wanted to add that I love the way that King always seems to point out the brutal ironies in life in his stories. And in this one in particular, he also incorporates with that the contradictions in religion. And you know, when you're reading King, it's not like you're reading some literary heavy prose. It's all very simple, but his dialogue, all his characters are distinctive. He's great at using slang and making the speech sound so individual to each character, which I love. But like, my point is that, he does all this in such easy to read fashion that anyone can enjoy it. And it's still so effective. It's so well done. You have to love it.
I got nightmares in my head, I fear.
Just finished Revival. I feel like maybe I should take some time to chew on it, but here's my off-the-cuff reaction.
I freaking loved it.
It was so good.
Dark and shocking and twisted. All the
Normal things you would expect from Stephen King without any of the slog. I was riveted the entire time. The main character, he was flawed and he was strange, but in all the best ways. This is totally unexpected. I went into this not knowing much about it, and it did not disappoint. So if you're a fan of Stephen King and you have not read Revival, I highly recommend it. There is not a lot of jump scares or...
It's more of like an overall creepy feeling like something isn't right.
You're not sure what it is, and it kept me guessing until the end. It is creepy and ominous. so good. I think that if you love Stephen King, if you're a Stephen King fan, this is one that I honestly, I don't hear a lot of people talking about it. I highly recommend it. You should definitely pick it up. I think I'm gonna give it 4 stars, maybe 4.25. I really can't think of anything about it that I didn't like. I know I've mentioned that it deals a lot with death and grief and loss, the things that we do for the people that we love. I mean, you would do anything for them, correct? I would. Those people that I love, there's probably not many things that I wouldn't do for them. This really takes a hard look at what that means and what the cost of that might be. And also, I think it was so fun, which is typical Stephen King, but the many nods in this to some of his other books, like Joyland and The Mysteries of the Worm is a book that he talks about in one of his short stories, Jerusalem's Lot. It was a great time. Highly recommend it. I'm going to start Misery. It is Thursday. It's like just before noon. So I plan on starting this afternoon. Like I mentioned, it is under 400 pages. So I'm hoping that I will finish this weekend. So many people love this book, so I have high hopes. But I'm so glad that I took this little diversion and kind of skipped over my TBR and just went with what I was feeling like reading. And that's why I don't do well with TBRs.
To be honest.
I love that Sting. I love that King starts Misery out with a quote from Nietzsche. When you look into the abyss also looks into you. It's a great quote. 126 pages in, and this book is giving me anxiety. Hello again. Update. I am 200 pages into Misery. That is more than halfway. I definitely feel the, like I mentioned, anxiety that this book stirs. I think the villain, Annie, in this story is terrifying and brutal and unrelenting and something out of your nightmares that is so realistic that I find it even more scary than some of King's more supernatural villains. Her instability and her ability to do anything, and so her unpredictableness, horrifying. I cannot imagine the terror that is obvious and must also be like way worse to experience. I can't even imagine. But anyway, it's also interesting to me I get the sense that King really has almost put himself on the page in this book, because as a writer himself, his main character is a writer, the popularity and familiarity that King has with so many, I'm sure that the idea and the horror of possibly having some psychotic fan lose their shit on you is something that, King has thought about or is a possibility for him. And not only that, but, this author's putting to rest one of his famous characters, a character that has brought him fame and fortune, and the idea that one of your fans may react in such a way. You can just kind of see King putting himself on the page a little bit. Yeah, I don't know. I find myself when I'm reading it, like, cringing and jaw dropping, and just revulsion is palpable. I can almost feel myself like wanting to put it down for a few minutes because it's just so anxiety ridden. Every time Paul leaves his room to try and, find food or find meds or whatever, I'm like, oh God, oh God, oh God, like nail biting. Is she gonna show up, do something horrible? I did see this movie, but it's been years and years ago, so I only have the vaguest recollection of what happened. The major thing that I remember is the scene where she takes a mallet to his ankles or feet or something. I'm not even recalling it really as I'm reading it. I really like it. I mean, I don't love so much glimpses into the writing that he's doing. I find myself wanting to know what's happening in his world and not caring about the characters within the story or the characters on the page that Paul is writing for Annie. I'm kind of like, okay. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. Get to the point. I want his story to unfold. I think it's really great. I see what all the hubbub is about, and I'm excited to see how it ends because I, for the life of me, do not remember. I hope to finish it today. It is Saturday. It's like 10:40, and it's like a gloomy, cloudy, rainy day, so I will probably just sit in here and finish it, and then who knows. I'm really enjoying it. I'm gonna freaking push through and hope to finish it today. I think there's like 150 pages left, and I've been breezing through it, so I don't think that's gonna be a problem. Have you read Misery? Have you read Revival? I'm really curious to hear what people say about the two. Because, like I mentioned, I don't really hear people talking about Revival, but I hear Misery all the time. All the time, people talk about Misery and how much they love it. So, can't wait to finish and let you know what I think, but drop a comment down below and let me know what you thought about these two books. Have you read them? Did you love them? Did you hate them? I know King can be a little polarizing depending on the novel and the time period and things. So, let's talk about it. Tell me what you thought. I finished Misery last night. I loved it. I thought it was so freaking brutal. Man, the lengths that this woman goes to. I can see why everybody loves this book. And I'm really glad that I finally read it. And this whole week's excursion into getting back into reading King, because I haven't picked up one of his books in quite some time. It was very traumatic and anxiety ridden. Like, it had me feeling anxious and cringing in kind of horrified shock at some of the torturous things that King comes up with, which really I shouldn't be, because that is what King is. He is the master of terror and horrifying you. And he did in this book. He did this. I know that I talked about how I feel like King inserted himself in this book in that the main character is a writer who struggles with his own writing, but also I'm sure the fact how his fans, he's such a prolific author that he has a huge fan base. And it is certain that his fans often try to persuade him to write his books a certain way, or to bring back certain characters, or to do certain things that, they want to see happen, where he himself maybe doesn't. So it was interesting to see King sort of insert his own fears, his own weaknesses, his own struggles into the story, into the main character. And that was just my take on it. That's kind of how I felt the avenue that he was taking with the story. But the fact that Annie, the villain, is such a plausible villain that makes it that much more terrifying. I know that some of the things that she does, or maybe her whole repertoire of killing and things like that, maybe a little bit on the extreme end, it still is, she's not some supernatural being that, while it might be scary while you're reading it, like deep down, like this is not real. But Annie is very real. And I think that adds to her shock value, the ominous nature of the things that she does, and this peculiar and violent predicament that Paul has found himself in. And the thing that I thought was very interesting was how he used the book that Paul had to write in this, the new Misery novel, as like this looming presence, to where its finality would also seems to coincide with the end of this kidnapping that he's found himself in. Whether that's good or bad, he is open to both. All he knows is that he wants it to end, or he would rather die than be stuck in this situation forever. And at the end, even Annie realizes that this is it. Like, she's been caught. Like, it's imminent that it's going to go down. I thought that the setting in this was great. The fact that it was all within one small area, but he still was able to be so descriptive and really bring it to life. I thought the pacing was fantastic. I was kind of on the edge of my seat the whole time. There were times, like I mentioned before, I think about how I wasn't crazy about the insertion of some of the chapters within the book that he was writing. I was like, okay, like, is this necessary? I feel like it could have, I don't know. I just didn't care. And maybe it was necessary, but for me, I just didn't care about it. So I wish that maybe that wasn't there. Overall, I gave this book 4 stars. I think that I would like to maybe go watch the movie now and compare, because it has been so long since I've seen the movie. So I don't know. I might just do that. This wraps up my week of reading Stephen King. I only read 2 books. I probably could have read 3 had I not had an entire day where I really didn't get much reading done. That's okay. I'll save it for the next time, because I absolutely plan on doing this again. This was so much fun. I think this would be great for a fall, like Halloween type reading vlog. So that's probably what I will do in a few months. I think that's it. I think that wraps it up. So I really hope that you guys enjoyed this vlog as much as I did. And I would love to know what you thought about these books. Please leave a comment down below and maybe recommend books that you would want me to read in the next Stephen King reading vlog. He has so many books that I've only read a fraction. So go ahead, shoot me your best shot. All right, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Fine now. That doesn't make sense.